Hello everybody, this is Manu S and welcome to another Eternal news video. So we just had the downtime to prepare for this weekend's draft event, and we also got 4 card updates, or rather card buffs, simply in the new patch. So I want to take a look at those with you real quick and discuss them to give you an idea what to expect. Alright, so event UI just got updated. So now the events are presented in selection array, making it easier to identify when there are multiple events, which is nice because before having this arrow on the sides, having to flip back and forth between screens was kind of not a good solution and made it harder to see how this is gonna work. This is much more intuitive. And yeah, now decks can be imported and exported from the expanded deck view. That also works for draft decks, so that's nice. I mean, the export worked before, but the import didn't. So that's some nice updates. Now you can also check sample hands in leagues, which is kind of trivial to me. Honestly, I never used that feature really, but now we have it in leagues as well. And yeah, the new tag also works in the league pool now, so you can easily identify cards from packs each week. Then on to the card updates. So they just want to slightly adjust some things, like as they said here, there's an ebb and flow to healthy metagames, and while we're keeping an eye on the prevalence of unitless control decks, overall we've been pretty happy with the post-dead reckoning meta. Now that things have settled down a bit, we wanted to give a boost to a couple cards with some interesting potential against slower primal decks, and a couple compelling new options for primal decks seeking to be a little proactive. So we get Stepping Brushstalker is a 5/5 now instead of a 5/4. This is a pretty trivial change, but aimed at exactly what they said. This makes it a bit better against controlling decks, because they can basically not kill this, and also together with killer shenanigans now this can kill like Sky Harbinger without trading with it, if you use a Predator's Instinct on it, for example. And with Xenon Initiation it can even kill, say, a Champion of Cunning without its +2 attack buff, without dying and so on. But I doubt this will make it into constructed regardless. Maybe as a sideboard card, I don't know. Next we have Crownwatch Pressgang. Now costs 4 instead of 5, the rest stayed the same. That's a really nice change because the card's actually kind of cool and interesting, and this change makes it much more competitive and constructed, because before it was just a bit too expensive for what it did, and now coming down an entire turn earlier and having a better cost to effect ratio make this card really interesting. There are a couple of things you can do, like Cliffside Porter Pressgang with Nostrix, or just play it in aggressive Justice decks with 1-drops as sort of like a refill, especially as a sideboard card against that primal control decks, similar to Ranger of Eos and Magic. Long term it's actually more powerful than Ranger, and short term it's less powerful. And another change is a really sweet one that I have been wanting for quite some time, and I think a lot of other people too. Jotun Feastcaller finally got its 4th health. The card was just too dialed back in my opinion compared to the other cards of the cycle, and 4/4 is pretty reasonable. Makes it a lot harder to just break the Aegis with something like non-removal and then just torch it, for example, like some decks that like Finest Hour and then torch and stuff like that, or just Enforcer torch and so on. And it also survives your own Hailstorm now, which is also pretty relevant, but I think the most important aspect is that it's now much better in combat. Before, when you played it on turn 5, you basically could only block and trade. Now you actually can block a fair share of units without trading. There's a lot of 3 attack units. Is now blanks for a turn, allowing you to gain back some momentum and then be able to go on the offense without being too far behind on tempo already, so that if you attack to draw a card, you're just gonna die on the crackback. So this is more of a momentum shift the turn it comes down now than it used to be, so that's pretty cool. And obvious upsides are also like relic weapons, such as Sword of Icaria, especially making it harder to kill this. So yeah, the card is more appealing now to try and build around, which is pretty cool because the card is nice and also pretty powerful, just had a few shortcomings that have been reduced now. And the last one is a change to Caleb Reborn. It's his ultimate got changed from 6 to 5, so now you can play him on 4 and immediately 5, which is nice, but I don't think it's a very relevant change in the end until the guy becomes more playable in general, because right now he's just not very playable, and it's not because his ultimate costs 6. It's just for various other reasons. Just a bit underpowered, not enough support for him, and so on and so forth. So, but yeah, if the card becomes viable, this is definitely a nice change, being able to drop it and ultimate it the turn after. And yeah, there are some bug fixes, nothing big, but we have one other thing that I want to briefly discuss that dropped the other day, and that's the first art spoiler for set 4. So let's take a look. This is the first art for set 4, which is good news because that means the first real card spoiler isn't that far off, and that also means set 4 isn't that far off after that. So there is light at the end of the tunnel in a way. So this, I would guess, is most likely a spell, but could also be a unit with the elf in front being the unit and the whole action going on in the backdrop, just to like emphasize what this elf is about, or just like flavor stuff. But my guess would be it's a spell and the explosion in the background is potentially like the core idea of the card name. My guess would be that it's probably a Stonescar card, because this whole explosion thing makes it look very much like a fire component to the card. Couldn't really imagine this explosion thing being on a non-fire card. And the other thing is this is an elf, so elves are shadow, so that means it's definitely a shadow card. Also, it's at night, it's kind of like a dark card. But I would be surprised if it's a shadow non-fire card. So my guess would be it's a Stonescar card, either a Stonescar elf, which I'm not sure is going to be a thing, honestly, because elves are normally shadow and Feln. And yeah, that's that would be my guess, and that would also make it more likely to be a Stonescar spell, given that elves are not usually fire and shadow. But who knows, maybe we get the first Stonescar elves. That is certainly not impossible. And yeah, so that's my guess for the art of this for the card to this art. Let me know in the comments what you guys think. What are your speculations? Curious if anyone else has some reasonable and sound theories on what this art could hint at. I think it's a pretty cool art, so curious to see if the card is nice too, so we get to play with the cool art and construct it. Yeah, looking forward to the first real spoiler for the next set. So far we barely know anything about it other than this artwork. I think we don't even know the name of the next set yet. Alright, that's it again for this Eternal News episode. Hope you guys enjoyed it, and give the new buffed cards some love, and they hopefully revive currently stale feeling Eternal a bit again. Honestly, I felt kind of a lack of motivation lately to play Eternal, as you could tell from me not having streamed in like 2 weeks plus. But yeah, once there's more motivating stuff to do, I will be streaming again, so keep an eye out on that. Just follow me on Twitch, turn on your notifications so you don't miss back up again. Yeah, as usual, if you enjoyed this, don't forget to like and subscribe down below. Turn on notifications for future content. And that's it for Eternal News this time. I'm Manu S. I thank you for watching. See you next time. Bye.